have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Friends and neighbors, good to see you this morning. It is Monday, April 21. Friends and neighbors, good to see you this morning. It is Monday, April 21. How about it? Welcome back to the real world here. It's good to see you. And whether or not you celebrated Easter Sunday yesterday or 4/20, April 20, we hope you had a great weekend. Chance to relax, spend some good time with your family. I know that I did, and are ready to go for another very busy week. President Obama, one more day in the White House today before he takes off for a week-long trip to Asia, visiting our Asian allies and reasserting the United States once again As a Pacific nation, visiting several of our allies and also sending a strong message to China while he is in Asia that we are there too. And up in Boston today, 36,000 people have signed up for the Boston Marathon, this first anniversary of the horrible bombing at last year's marathon. 1 million people expected to line the streets of Boston to cheer them on. Yes, indeed. Boston is back. Boston strong. Boston stronger than ever. And where Boston is strong, America is strong. Still unrest in the eastern Ukraine as the protesters there, despite last week's agreement in Geneva, refuse to leave the government buildings that they took over. And there's more and more evidence that a lot of those professional protesters are actually Russian intelligence agents sent in by the Kremlin. Meanwhile, more and more people, it turns out, are abandoning the game of golf. And so there is an effort underway to loosen the rules to make the game easier, thinking that will attract people back. Is that the way to go? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS here on Free Speech TV and on youtube.com/TalkerTV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Today we are all Boston strong. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Monday. Good to see you this Monday, April 21, Easter Monday, or Pot Monday, I guess, depending on how you celebrated yesterday. It was Easter Sunday for all of us. It was 420 for a lot of us, particularly if you were in Colorado or Washington or California or Oregon, anywhere on the West Coast or the Western United States, maybe. Great to see you this morning, however you celebrated. Hope you had a great time, and we welcome you this morning and thank you for joining us on a Monday morning. Always fun to start off a new week with all kinds of news stories to talk about, and opportunity for you to give us a call and talk about those issues at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your snarky comments at BP Show, on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here we go. The team is back this morning. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey there.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Alicia Cruz there. She's here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Monty Chancellor is here on the video stream with the assistance of the veteran videographer, Cyprian Bolding here. Thanks. So, again, it's getting so, by the time we get on Free Speech TV and on YouTube.com/Talker TV, it takes two people.
It really does.
There's so many cameras
really
and lights that keep going and everything. So,
and plus, when you have Cyprian, who was up so late last night
with the Wizards,
he's got to have a little help.
I
understand.
So you guys have a good weekend? Everything?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes, beautiful weekend.
Yeah. Carol and I went up to Delaware, a little visit with our family. They do a big job celebrating Easter.
Sure.
And
my
sister.
Oh, no.
My sister sent a little Easter basket for the team here.
Is that right?
How sweet.
Including some peeps
I
here.
see peeps.
Oh, those are my favorite.
A little bit of everything. Yeah. She insisted it's for everybody, but that I have to have a bite of this because it's a dark chocolate peep.
Oh.
But they're candy kisses. There's a little bit of everything
That's
here.
sweet.
Very nice.
Thank you.
From Delaware, then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sister Margie. You can put that right there, and we can.
Give me that.
You can. Everybody can come in and dip in.
Yeah, but
here
I got first
anytime,
dibs here.
Anytime during the show.
I see a Reese's peanut butter cup.
All right, there you go.
I got dibs.
Yeah. How about it? Easter egg hunts and Easter candy all over. And I got to tell you, it was not only a big Easter Sunday, it was a big weekend for Washington sports, huh?
Yeah, man.
Nats beating the Cardinals yesterday.
Yeah, bottom of the ninth,
but they won.
They won.
And they split with the Cardinals 2-2, which is better than they usually do with the Cardinals, right?
We'll take it.
Yeah,
we'll take it.
Absolutely. And then the Wizards in the NBA playoff last night, their first game, beat the Chicago Bulls.
In Chicago.
Chicago, right. Here's Dave Johnson with a call when Marcin Gortat gets a three-pointer here and pulls it ahead.
Wall in the center circle, 12 on the clock. Wall off a Gortat screen. Wall, right elbow, rises, shoots, misses badly. Gortat the rebound. Short jumper, good! Short jumper, good! Marcin Gortat from 5 feet, left side of the lane. The Wizards lead by 6, 96-90 with 34 seconds left.
And they went on to win by 102-93. Hey.
It was a hell of a game, and it's a tough place to win for the Wizards in Chicago. And no disrespect to our listeners and friends in Chicago, which I know we have plenty of. Shout out WCPT. But, I'm glad the Wizards took that home court advantage away.
For the home team here, it was big. Now, how far do we expect them to go in these NBA playoffs?
Look, if they play the way that they played last night, they were a little sloppy at times, but they really had a good rhythm going, and they were big when they needed to be big. I think that they can beat Chicago. I really do think they can beat Chicago. From there, who knows? Who knows what happens?
How many games did they play against Chicago?
It's a best-of-5 series.
Oh, it's a best-of-5.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that was the first one?
That was the first one.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. All right.
Two more wins in this series. That's all they got to do.
We got a lot coming up here from the hotline. Scott Bland will join us in this hour. Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports will be along in the next hour. And then our third hour together this morning, Evan McMorris-Santoro from Buzzfeed and Jess McIntosh from Emily's List along as well. A lot of them very important Senate races with women candidates that Jess McIntosh will tell us all about. And what do you think about making golf easier to play? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Chocolate candy while you're at it.
Just a couple of other stories making
If I'm a little
news.
distracted, don't worry about it.
That's okay. Go for it. Last week, Pope Francis was in Perugia, Italy, and he was speaking to a group of fifth graders out in public. He had ridden the Pope-mobile up to a group, and some of the fifth graders asked if they could ride in the Pope-mobile.
Aww.
The Pope laughed and then said, hey, sure.
Why not?
So he grabbed two 11-year-olds, Livio Bastianelli and David Maria Bianchi, and took them into the Pope-mobile and let them ride around for a little while.
How fun is that?
Why the hell not? After a few minutes, the Pope blessed the two boys and sent them back to rejoin their group. But it's a pretty decent ride for the kids.
Did he make them put on a white cassock?
No.
In fact, we have to Pope. The Pope has to. We have to have an
Papa.
Easter blessing from Papa here.
I didn't go to church yesterday, so I might as well.
Here it is. Yeah.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona e santa Pasqua.
Buona e Santa Pasqua.
Which is Italian for hop in my Pope-mobile, let's go for a spin.
for a ride, right?
Yeah. Speaking of Easter candy, Bill, with the basket that we have here, BuzzFeed put together
the chocolate
their
Peeps, I want you to know, is really good.
ultimate ranking of Easter candy. Number one on the list, which I disagree with vehemently, Starburst jelly beans.
Oh.
Starburst jelly beans. Number two, the Russell Stover chocolate bunny. Number three, the Cadbury mini eggs.
Ooh, I agree with that.
Number four, Peeps, the marshmallow
Oh,
Peeps.
Peeps.
On number four, my favorite and the undisputed king of Easter candy is the Reese's peanut butter egg.
Oh.
That's on the list at number 9.
Oh,
Travesty. A travesty.
I think children get to make up this list, not necessarily.
Well, kids don't know what the hell they're talking about. Damn it. And let's say hello to this 16-year-old boy who is yet to be named. He got in a fight with his family. He ran away from home. He hopped a fence at LAX, and he climbed up into the wheel well of a plane flying to Hawaii.
Whoa.
He survived the entire flight, despite frigid temperatures, 38,000 feet, and a lack of oxygen.
No,
He landed in Hawaii, climbed down from the wheel well, dazed, and wandered around until someone walked up to him and said, "What are you doing here?" And he explained the situation. He says he blacked out for most of the flight. He just got up in the wheel well and passed out because of lack of oxygen.
I didn't think you could even survive that.
The police didn't think you could survive that either. In fact, that was the first comment that came from the police in Hawaii. He says, "We are shocked that anybody could survive this."
Wow.
Whoa.
That's so fortunate.
They screened him, medically screened him. They found him to have no harm whatsoever. He doesn't remember most of the flight because he blacked out due to lack of oxygen.
So did he have to come home the same way?
At least he knows how to pick a flight. I mean, he went to Hawaii.
He went to Hawaii.
Right.
I mean, if you gotta hop on a plane, pick the one going to Hawaii.
When I was living in LA, there was a guy who actually got on the wrong flight. He was going to Oakland. He got on a flight to Auckland.
No way.
No, seriously. Auckland. He heard them call the flight for Auckland. He got on with his ticket, and 18 hours later.
I was going to say, that's a long
Oh, no.
Yeah, it doesn't take you that long to get from San Francisco to Oakland. I can tell you, it's like 45 minutes.
I imagine like
No, he
45
ended up
minutes
in
into the flight,
Auckland.
he's kind of like,
That's
okay.
unbelievable.
Then they had to pay him all. They had to give him a ticket to come all the way home.
Oh,
Right?
my goodness.
Crap, that's...
I'd be careful. Okay, you know where we start today? Easter Monday. Here's where we go. I saw this story yesterday in the New York Times about efforts to loosen up the rules for the game of golf, and I could not believe it. All right, so I really want to get your take on this at 866-55-PRESS. So let's put this in context. All you regulars, and we love you for being so. I used to play a lot of golf, and I love the game. And a couple of years ago, I think my last book, I was working on my book through the summer, and I had a deadline, and so I just got away from the game because I didn't have time. I was at my word processor every weekend, and then I never went back. Well, it turns out, I didn't realize this, I'm not the only one. I mean, by far. 5 million, there are 25 million golfers, they say, in America today. 5 million golfers left, gave up the game over the last 10 years, and they expect another 5 million to give up the game just in the next few years. So, people are abandoning the game. So the question then is, what are we going to do about it? Well, there's actually the PGA, the golf professional associations are talking about loosening up the rules to make it easier so more people will play, more people will continue to play, and younger people especially people under 35 just don't even consider golf, that younger people especially will come. It's sort of like, cable TV is always trying, what can we do to get young people to watch,
the young
right?
Demo.
Right,
Sure.
The young demo. And so here are some of the things that they're considering. One is that for every hole, you get to take an extra shot or a free shot, like a mulligan. You don't like your shot that you took, then you take another one. Bill Clinton was famous for doing that. And
Bill Press is kind of famous for doing
by
that.
the way, I admit it. So what's new about this?
Yeah, right.
But what's new is you could do it and it would count. It would still be official because the golf rules are pretty strict.
Oh yeah. I would say traditionally, the way that things are done in golf,
you would never take a mulligan. Nobody would allow you to take a mulligan or do over or whatever they call them. Right. No.
Right.
Or to take if sometimes you're close enough to the hole, people say just
a gimme.
It's a gimme, right? So that's one. Two, they would allow you to. These would be now officially recognized and count. To tee up every ball. You tee up the first one in regular golf, but after that you play it off the grass. Oh no, you could put a tee and tee up every shot, which does make it easier to hit the ball.
Sure does.
No doubt about it. I mean, think about that. Another is, I love this one. If you get in a sand bunker, you're allowed to pick up the ball and throw it out of the bunker.
That is incredible.
And bunker shots are the toughest shots in golf,
Sure.
I believe. They really are because you can't touch. I mean, it's just the rules for getting out of the bunker. I never perfected the skill of getting out of bunker. But now you have to worry about it. Just pick up the ball. Throw it out. Get in the bunker. Throw it. Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, it totally is. Another is that they would shorten the game. You could just and you would have a time card instead of playing for 18 holes or 9 holes. You could play for 6. You could play for 3. You have a card, and you punch in, you punch out, and you pay just for how long you're on the course. I mean, this is getting to be silly. It seems to me. Another idea was giving away free beer. Yeah,
that might have people lining up.
I actually like that one.
Right, but that will attract more people. Yeah, talk about dumbing down the game. Right? Yeah, they're also talking about different new balls or new clubs. Now, there are fancy clubs now, some of which are not allowed because they are they take too much of the skill out of the game.
They're too good.
Too good, right. That's it. Now they have balls that will neither go left nor right? Balls that just go, I mean, come on, right?
Oh, man.
And the worst of all is enlarging the hole. The hole now is 4.5 inches diameter, okay, like that. They would enlarge it to 15 inches. You could put a damn soccer ball in a 15-inch hole,
That's
right?
gigantic.
So it's easier to hit. All of these things. I mean, to me, it's just this is crazy. I mean, look, I think what they ought to be talking about maybe is making the game cheaper. It's expensive to play golf for a lot of people, particularly some of these private courses. Man, you get $200.
There was a big movement
crazy.
when Tiger Woods sort of hit his peak popularity several years ago now. And there were a lot of kids who saw him and said, like, holy cow,
yeah,
we want to play golf. There was a big movement then to say, like, we need to have cheaper green fees. The entry level to get into golf should be cheaper. Right?
Yeah.
And that never really went anywhere.
But, you got to play the green fee, but then you have to buy your clubs. All that kind of stuff.
And you got to dress a certain way to go play golf.
And by the way, I think another thing that could make it faster. I mean, a lot of people don't have 4 hours for a round of golf, which is basically what it takes, right? And on a weekend, on a weekend, it'll take you 5 hours because people are so slow, right? So there are other ways you can do it. But, I mean, the idea of dumbing the game down, making it easier to play, I just think is the wrong way to go. It's not golf anymore.
Right, exactly.
What do you think? I mean, I think this is crazy. 866-55-PRESS. This tempts me to make me want to go back just to protest. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. Is this the way to go? Make golf more popular by dumbing it down? You know what I got to say? If you're so damn dumb that you can't play golf the way it is now, play miniature golf.
Yeah.
That's an option.
Sure.
Yeah. Take your kids out and play miniature golf. They'll probably beat your ass. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour now. The game of golf going, gone. Even the leader of the PGA says, well, it's that there are too many people. We've got to stop scaring people away from golf by telling them that there's only one way to play the game. Hello? So what are they going to do about you know what? I'd go back to playing basketball if they would lower the basket and make the hoop bigger.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and the ball smaller.
Yes. Yeah, it lets you take 6 steps after you stop dribbling.
Or I could play Major League Baseball if I could just stand up there and keep swinging until I hit one.
10 strikes, you're out?
10? Hell. No. I mean, unlimited. I mean, why not?
Why scare anybody away?
Peter.
Remember, we're on Twitter at BP Show. At BP Show. You have a comment you want to weigh in. That's where you do it. Don Griffith, just a quick comment, says, hey, a mini bar at each hole would be a good start. I think a lot of people would join up and play more golf if that was the case.
I have played with people who have their own mini bar at every hole. Laura's down in Sebring, Florida. A lot of golf courses in that state. Hello, Laura.
Hello. How you doing, Bill?
I'm good. What do you think?
My husband works on a golf course. He's a greenskeeper. And he golfs after work. He loves golf. If you do this to him, he will have a hissy fit. I mean, that's the whole idea of the game. It's a challenge to get it into this little hole. That's the whole concept.
Well, it just seems to me that way, too, you know? And really, you dumb it down by making it 3 times. Going to 15 inches would make it 3 times as big as it is today.
Yep.
Lots of calls on this. Lots of golfers or former golfers want to speak out. We'll continue.
This
Coming
is
up,
the Bill
more
Press
on
Show.
golf.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like, go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At 34 minutes after the hour on a Monday morning, we're talking about, I just find this unbelievable that the Professional Golf Association, the PGA itself, is behind these proposed changes to the game of golf because too many people, they say, are quitting golf, and the way to get people to stay or the way to get more people to join is to make it a lot easier, like a 15-inch hole. You think about that, golf, I played so much golf, the idea that the hole would be 3 times as big, it does take a lot of the sport away from it. Or the idea you could pick up a ball, you're in the sand bunker, and just throw it up on the green. What's that all about?
I also just really have a problem with this idea of, some people aren't playing it people aren't playing it as much as they used to, so let's just make it easier. Let's just make it easier for people. Why? For the people that have been playing it for years and enjoy it, as frustrating as it might be, Like, what are you talking about? Just making it easier for people to get in?
I think it could have the opposite effect, by the way. I think some people who enjoy the game right now could say,
yeah.
Oh, this is Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
That's a good point.
Yeah, and walk away from it. Kevin's out in Chicago, Illinois. Hey, Kevin, good morning.
Hey, Bill. Good morning. Hey, the problem is, you got to keep the level of the game, the integrity of the game per se. You can lighten up some of the general rules, but the bottom line is, it takes a level of commitment to play it. Everybody knows you ain't gonna stare down a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and hit it anywhere, but maybe like halfway to the pitcher's mound. You're never going to put a slap shot past the goalie. You're never going to lace a football down the sideline and put it in a guy's breadbasket with some other guy hanging all over him. But we all think we can go out there, myself included, and pick up that club because it looks easy, and it's just you, the club, and the course. And it just can't happen. You have to go out there and constantly play the game.
That's right.
Your frustration level gets up there, and you give up. Or you put the clubs in the corner of the garage. Just go to any garage sale in America on any given Saturday, and you can find your choice of golf clubs anywhere you go. So.
Yeah, I know, but you keep at it anyhow, Kevin. And the other thing is, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I play with my friends, right, it's a fun game. It's a loose game, and somebody wants to take a mulligan. Like, who cares, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But you got to keep the fees down. You hit it before. You got to bring the fees down.
Yes.
Because let's face it, you can go out to a park, you can shoot hoops, you can throw a football with your friends. When are you going to go shoot some golf clubs without blowing your neighbor's window out? You got to go to a golf course.
No.
Right,
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, keep the fees. So some of these green fees are just crazy. Yeah. And then also, you get out there, some people just take too damn long to play. We've been behind that. You get stuck behind people. So they can speed it up a little bit. There are things they can do, but dumbing it down, I think, is just crazy. Hey, Kevin, good to hear from you. Thanks out there in WCPT in Chicagoland. Paul in Racine, Wisconsin. Hello, Paul. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Okay, what do you think? Are you a golfer, and what do you think of this?
I am a golfer, and the way we cut our teeth when we were kids is the local municipal golf course would let the kids play free during the summer on Monday mornings.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
That's what they used to do, but of course all the golf got political after that because they didn't want the city in the golf business anymore.
Oh, okay.
That's the way that we cut our teeth, and there was lots of kids out there playing at that time. And
but I'm
be off the course by 11 o'clock, but it was a lot of fun.
But I'm sure that brought in a lot of young people, right, who would never have access to a golf course, right? Their parents wouldn't be able to take them out or whatever, and they got hooked on the game and maybe stayed with it, like you, right?
Yep, and they were all supervised. The crew was watching the kids, so they didn't do a lot of mischief.
Yeah. And you could do that at different times, right? I mean, I could see that's a great idea. Like maybe one day a week or a half a day a week, you would just have a half price day or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, all seniors or all juniors or whatever, all women, or I don't know, or just,
I do think that the key to, not that I think that golf is dying, right, but if they're making the argument that it's fading, that the key to reviving golf lies not in changing the game itself, but changing the accessibility to it, right? Tiger Woods, I keep bringing him up because he is the last guy to truly change the game.
But also, I remember when he, just jumping in, sorry, but when he came into his own, right, with Fred, everybody said, this is going to mean golf is going to be the most popular sport ever because everybody's going to be one out there. Young people particularly going to be the next Tiger.
Yeah. And there certainly was a boom, and I think that we're seeing that fall off is what they're saying here. But a lot of the stuffiness, the air of old white guys, playing golf was taken away when Tiger Woods became so successful. But yeah, the greens fees, the accessibility, changing maybe the pace a little bit, but I mean, I keep coming back to the size of the hole. It's not that competitive.
Seriously. No,
it's just not that competitive.
No, really, it's crazy. It's crazy, and yeah, I just think about. I mean, like, then what happens to professional golf, right?
Right.
What happens to the Masters, or what happens to these tournaments? Are people really going to watch them if it becomes so easy? Right?
No, there's no way I'd watch.
So you'd have to have some courses are dumb courses and other courses are smart courses, right?
Right.
Some courses, big hole course and little hole course. Or maybe each green has one of each, right? So when you get to the green, you
take
choose.
Your pick.
You take your pick. I know. I don't know. Here we go. Our buddy Ike down in Charleston, South Carolina. Hello, Ike. What's going on?
Well, I know you're limited. Real quick, I recommend stripper poles instead of flags.
That'll bring them in, Ike.
Sure.
That'll bring them in, yeah.
And I'm all for it as long as they, shorten the blades on the windmill. That would be my push. But maybe some of these backroom deals the GOP keeps making out on the golf courses will dry up if the game dries up.
No, that's right. Yeah, there are a lot of those deals made on the golf course. I love the stripper pole. Maybe that's it. Nude golf.
I'm not sure that I want to see that. I mean, you're talking about
No, I don't even go there. No. So, just when you think you've heard all the dumb ideas out there, golf holes yeah. Oh, I didn't even mention. So, golf holes the size of pizzas, a mulligan on every hole. Why just one? I mean, if you're going to loosen it up.
Right. No, seriously,
one?
where do you end with this?
All right. Well, here's the end to me. The other idea that they're talking about is, foot golf.
Yeah.
In which players kick a soccer ball from the tee to an oversized hole. I told you could get a soccer ball in this hole.
You could. Yeah.
And they count their kicks. And so
So now it's kickball.
It's kickball.
It's kickball.
This is kindergarten
This is
stuff.
a totally different game. Yeah. All right.
Forget it.
So even Sergio Garcia is behind this kind of stuff. No. This is dumb. Shoot it down before it gets any further than this.
Yeah.
And we started here this morning on the Bill Press Show. When we come back, the serious news of the day. What's the president up to with this Asian trip? We will check in with Scott Bland, editor-in-chief at the National Journal Hotline. Stay with us here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
seen on Free Speech TV and online on Darker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
14 minutes now before the top of the hour on a Monday morning, April 21. At the top of the next hour, we will jump up to Boston to check in with preparations for this first anniversary Boston Marathon. Right now, let's look here at our nation's capital and what's happening. Scott Bland is editor-in-chief of the Hotline for the National Journal, nationaljournal.com. Hello, Scott. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, always good to have you with us, Scott. So, interesting. I want to talk about the president's big trip this week. But first of all, end of last week, the State Department announced we've all been waiting for the other shoe to drop on the Keystone Pipeline. It looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, huh?
The more things change, the more they stay the same, right?
Yeah, right.
It looks like it's going to take a little bit longer while for Keystone to resolve itself. And so, people were spending the end of last week trying to parse the political ramifications of that. Yeah.
Well, the State Department insists that politics had nothing to do with this decision to delay it. But clearly, even though there were gripes from the left and the right, this is just an attempt to get this issue off to the sidelines during the midterms, isn't it? I mean,
I suppose that could be the case. Yeah. To be honest, it's a little difficult for me to try and decide what the. I guess it depends on how you think about this. If you think the pipeline is eventually going to happen, then angering the kind of environmental money set before an election is one major factor that obviously would have to play in Democratic thinking, but also not giving red state Democrats the kind of boost they're looking for on this issue that they've been pushing for very hard for some time is another. It's at this point it's a little difficult to fully tease out the political calculus here.
No, I know. People who favor the pipeline are not happy because they say, just go ahead and approve the damn thing, right? And the people who oppose it are not happy because they say, just go ahead and deny the damn thing, right? So nobody had got what they wanted. At the same time, I think it gives people like Mary Landrieu particularly time to say, look, this is good. We don't want this pipeline. I've been for it all along, right? This proves that I'm having an impact. Maybe they haven't approved it, whatever. We'll see how that plays out. At any rate, they've extended the comment period or their chance to review public comments beyond the midterm elections. So that will be on the sidelines for now. What is how do we read the purpose of the president's big trip, which he takes off on tomorrow, Scott?
Well, I think, I think a lot of times you see second-term presidents turn their eyes abroad, especially as the possibility of further domestic accomplishments starts to wane, and that's especially the case with the president right now working with a divided Congress. So the reality of the matter is that he is not going to be passing much in the way of major legislation for the rest of his term, and so I think like a lot of presidents, he is trying to, he and his team are trying to burnish his foreign legacy at this point.
But beyond that, right? I mean, it's polishing this legacy is one thing, but this is a pivot toward Asia, right? That he really wants to establish the United States as more of a Pacific presence.
Oh, sure, and this has been a longer-term goal of his presidency, and actually, it's been very interesting to watch. It's been a quieter foreign policy move than most, kind of trying to tie together the various disparate interests in the Pacific, ultimately as a counterweight to a rising China, right? And it hasn't been smooth at all times. There's been a lot of tension, rising tension of late, especially between South Korea and Japan. But ultimately, this has been in terms of trade, in terms of military military presence, in terms of agreements across all those realms. This has been something that his administration has been focused on since 2009, and they're really trying to keep the foot on the gas and bring it home over the last few years.
Yeah, and we remember that this trip was postponed once because of the problems in Syria. The president had to deal with that, and so it's been rescheduled. Some people thought it might have been derailed again because of what was happening in the Ukraine, but the president's going forward with it. And for him particularly, Scott, I mean, he is the first, if you will, Pacific president, right? Raised in Hawaii, spent some time in Indonesia, right? So, I mean, this really, he's one who can carry this message, I guess, more than any other president.
It's a very interesting point. I hadn't thought about that much, but it absolutely is true. He's been very well received, especially in Indonesia, where people have kind of viewed him as a little bit more, at least one of their own. And, that's a very interesting point.
He's a child of the Pacific. Now, last week there was some interesting back and forth over immigration and the president's comments and his conversation with Eric Cantor. It's just always hard to read this issue. Every time I think it's dead, it looks like it comes back to life. How do you read the tea leaves there?
I wrote at the very beginning of this Congress back at the end of January in 2013 about just how unlikely it was for immigration reform to pass the House, no matter what happened in the Senate. And you
still feel that way?
It's hard to. I mean, like the problem with this is that in order for something to happen, you need large numbers of members of Congress to shift their public positions on this issue. It certainly could happen. I think one of the predictions that advocates have been making for a long time is that the number of Republicans in the House and in general who are supportive of this is far outnumbers the number of Republicans who are publicly supportive of this, and that they were just waiting for the right time, whatever that is. But that's always a very dicey situation to get yourself into when you're trying to make predictions about something, to be relying on people who are hedging their bets in public, even while making plans in private. And so it's very hard to say at this point. I would not, just for that reason, I would not bet on it.
Well, we have seen before, even if John Boehner and Eric Cantor want it, doesn't mean it's going to happen because of the Tea Party lock on this House. Hey, Scott, thanks so much for joining us. Happy Monday, and we will talk to you again soon. Scott Bland from the National Journal Hotline, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Queen Elizabeth, happy birthday. 88 today. How about it, Peter?
As America moves closer and closer to decriminalizing marijuana, one more place that we can look to is Jamaica.
Whoa.
When you think of Jamaica, you think weed, you think Bob Marley, Peter Tosh,
man.
reggae
Jamaica
music.
man.
Yes, indeed. Well, it's still illegal, although they just founded the Ganja Future Growers and Producers Association. It's the country's first lobby of marijuana cultivators. They gathered in Kingston, Jamaica, to say it's time to legalize it here in Jamaica.
All right. Next April 20, we are headed for Jamaica.
That's it,
all right. Coming up to Boston. Boston Strong.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Friends and neighbors, good to see you this morning. It is Monday, April 21. How about it? Welcome back to the real world here. It's good to see you. And whether or not you celebrated Easter Sunday yesterday or 4/20, April 20, we hope you had a great weekend. Chance to relax, spend some good time with your family. I know that I did, and are ready to go for another very busy week. President Obama, one more day in the White House today before he takes off for a week-long trip to Asia, visiting our Asian allies and reasserting the United States once again as a Pacific nation, visiting several of our allies and also sending a strong message to China while he is in Asia that we are there too. And up in Boston today, 36,000 people have signed up for the Boston Marathon, this first anniversary of the horrible bombing at last year's marathon. 1 million people expected to line the streets of Boston to cheer them on. Yes, indeed. Boston is back. Boston strong. Boston stronger than ever. And where Boston is strong, America is strong. Still unrest in the eastern Ukraine as the protesters there, despite last week's agreement in Geneva, refuse to leave the government buildings that they took over, and there's more and more evidence that a lot of those professional protesters are actually Russian intelligence agents sent in by the Kremlin. Meanwhile, more and more people, it turns out, are abandoning the game of golf, and so there is an effort underway to loosen the rules to make the game easier, thinking that will attract people back. Is that the way to go? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS here on Free Speech TV and on youtube.com/TalkerTV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
And, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Boston Strong. We are all Boston Strong today. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Monday, April 21. So good to see you today on this Easter Monday. Hope you had a great Easter weekend. Those of you in Potland, hope you had a great April 20, if you remember anything at all that happened yesterday. And we welcome you now to maybe back to the real world here as we bring you up to date on the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital. That's where you'll find us, right in our studio on Capitol Hill. Whether it's happening around the country or around the globe, we'll bring you up to date on what's going on and most importantly, give you a chance to sound off on what it all means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Again, coming to you live from our nation's capital on your local progressive talk radio station all across this great land of ours. Also simulcast on Free Speech TV. If you got a satellite, a dish, you know where to find us on DirecTV and the Dish Network. And on our video stream worldwide on your laptop, your desktop, your iPad or whatever at youtube.com/talkertv. Peter Rockburn and Lisa Murphy leading our team this morning.
Hey.
Good morning.
Hello,
Happy
guys.
Monday.
Alicia Cruz there is ready to take your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. Monty Kanzler, our videographer for the day, keeping us looking good on Free Speech and on Talker TV. Yesterday, our world's leaders came out to mark Easter Sunday appropriately. President Obama looking pretty nappy in a khaki suit.
Khaki suit.
Never seen him in that color at all. He looked different.
It was striking to see him and not in something other than a dark suit.
He always wears a dark suit. He was in that nice khaki yesterday. He and Michelle and the girls going out to church Sunday morning at the up on 19th Street. And the president said it's the golden rule that we all live by on Easter as well as every day of the year.
The common thread of humanity that connects us all, not just Christians and Jews, but Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs, is our shared commitment to love our neighbors as we love ourselves.
And over in Rome, the Pope, with his traditional Easter Sunday blessing to the mob in St. Peter's Square, said basically, here it is. Everybody, Happy Easter in Italian.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona e santa Pasqua.
Buona e Santa Pasqua.
I don't know much Italian, but I think that translates to save a Reese's peanut butter egg from me.
I think it says, I'll take a large pizza. Home delivery. Yeah, indeed. All right, we got up to Boston to start off this hour. Travis Waldron joins us a little bit later with the sports news of the day. And in the next hour, Evan McMorris-Santoro from Buzzfeed here is a friend of Bill and Jess McIntosh from Emily's List to hopscotch around some of the big races of this year, midterm elections. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Neil Patrick Harris is starring in the Broadway performance of Hedwig and the Angry Inch in New York, and he had to contend with a heckler over the weekend. It wasn't
in the theater?
During the show. It wasn't necessarily a nasty heckler, but in the middle of the performance, a woman in the audience shouted, "I love you, Neil." And the New York Post's Barbara Hoffman was in attendance. She reports that Harris turned to the audience and said, "I'm doing something up here, MFer." In the middle of the show, turned around and kept going with the performance of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So
good for him. I bet people applauded.
I mean, if you're going to heckle somebody, be ready for what they have to say back. The Cannabist, the Denver Post's blog all about marijuana, has a new columnist, and that columnist is Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Whoopi Goldberg writes in her first column, she talks about her relationship with her vape pen, her vaporizer pen.
Yes.
That's how she chooses to smoke her marijuana. She says that it all came from when Ricardo Baca, the founder of the Cannabist, made an appearance on The View and said he's looking for people to write for the site. She raised her hand on air. It turns out they had a nice chat after the show, and she is now a weed columnist.
She is a big user of this vape pen. What I don't know is Where does she do? I mean, she doesn't go to Colorado to use this vape pen.
I don't think so. They tape in New York. So it's not legal there.
That's right. That's what I'm wondering.
That's all I know.
Right.
And Haagen-Dazs has announced that they're coming out with 2 new flavors in May, and they're not as exciting as you might think. They are supposed to be lower in fat and calories, and you use an 8.5% milk fat. That's about half of what other flavors have. And the new flavors are tomato and carrot.
No way.
Forget it.
See, this is that juicer revolution taking hold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, come on. Don't waste your time. Yeah, I'm going to eat carrot ice cream.
Just saying. Give it a shot if you want, but I don't think I'll be trying it.
I made strawberry ice cream over the weekend. I'm not making any carrot ice cream, I'll tell you that. All eyes on Boston. The big day today, 1 year later. Scott Helman wrote the definitive book about the Boston Marathon bombing tragedy last year. Co-author of The Long Mile Home, Boston Under Attack, the city's courageous recovery, and the epic hunt for justice. Scott joining us on our newsline this morning. Good to have you with us, Scott. Thank you.
Good morning. Great to be here.
So what do we expect to see today in Boston?
I think it'll be a great day. I'm looking outside right now. I don't see a cloud in the sky. The weather looks about perfect. It's been like that all weekend, so I think we've got a gift in that regard. And, you know, I mean, this is always such a special event every year. It's really the city's holiday that everybody celebrates every spring. And it's always magical to be out there, but being around this weekend, I tell you, it feels different this year for sure. I think there'll be so many more people, so many more runners. I think everyone really wants to reclaim this thing for our own.
I guess that I've seen the figure 36,000. Is that the max that they could accommodate?
Yeah, so usually there's about 27,000 runners.
Wow.
They cap it at that. And this year they added 9,000. They added a fourth wave, essentially, of runners. So, you know, there's just tremendous interest in this race every year. But, I mean, of course, this year everybody wants to be here. Everybody wants to sort of celebrate the tradition, so they had to accommodate it. I mean, it's tough. It's a tight course, unlike some of the other marathons. We're on some small New England roads here, so everything has to be done very precisely to accommodate that size.
And I imagine the entire length of it will be lined with spectators this year.
Yeah, and I think they're usually they maybe get 500,000-600,000 people. I mean, I know this year they're expecting 1 million plus.
Wow.
And
oh my God!
The finish line is usually where a lot of people go because it's exciting, and you know you're sort of in the heart of the city. But it's true. I mean, along the whole 26 miles, you get people lining the course, and there are different traditions along the way. You know, you pass Wellesley College, for example, and the Wellesley girls are always out there screaming on the wall, and they're holding up signs saying, you know, "Save a kiss for me." I mean, it's a great.
Yeah. Have you seen this year a lot of extra security, just in case?
You know, there is, and I mean this is one of the difficulties of planning this year's race because there has to be additional security. Of course, there are a lot more police officers, both in uniform and undercover. There are a lot more surveillance things going on that we don't probably know about.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to be careful not to turn it into, you know,
a police state
because that ruins the whole spirit of the marathon. So they're trying to strike that balance. What I can see, I do think it'll feel a little bit different this year because of that. There's some extra barricades up and so forth. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too much in that direction or there will be something lost for sure.
How have the runners reacted to the security measures so far? Because I know a lot of times in these types of races, you have to go through a lot of hoops just to get to the beginning of the race. Any word on how they're taking it?
Yeah, well, they have more restrictions. You know, they're not allowed to bring bags, and there's a whole new policy where if they do want to put stuff in a bag, they have to do it in a clear bag that they're given. And so, you know, a lot of these runners have done this for many, many years, and they have their way of doing it, right? They bring their, you know, banana and their peanut butter or whatever, their clothes in a certain bag, and you know that's different. Exactly, their bottle of beer. And this year that is definitely a little bit different. I don't think it's a huge impediment to them, and again, people are so excited that they're kind of willing to accept anything. So I think it'll be all right.
Right now, is it already started? By the way,
so the first I believe the kickoff, the first mobility impaired folks go off at about 9 or maybe just before 9.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So not quite yet.
A friend of mine is running.
late.
He was saying that it does start later than a lot of races. A lot of these marathons start at 7 in the morning, and I think it has a lot to do with the festivities there, right?
I guess so.
Yeah, exactly. They've got some ceremonies and stuff, but it's spread out. I mean, the latest people, the last people don't start until 11:25. So I mean, it is.
Wow.
That's what I mean. They have to spread it out so much because the course is so narrow. You can't have everybody at once.
I got it right. Now, do we know how many, what percentage of the runners are repeat runners? People have come back from last year or years before.
It's a good question. I don't know the percentage. I do know that last year, when the whole race was stopped, there were about 5,600 runners or so on the course still.
Uh-huh.
And the Boston Athletic Association, which puts on the race, invited all of those people back sort of automatically. So you didn't have to qualify again. You didn't have to raise a ton of money for charity. You just got an invitation. So when I spoke to those guys for the book, they talked about, I think 80% of those had re-upped for this year, which is pretty remarkable if you think about it, because, you figure there's going to be some attrition there anyway. And then, you have to believe some people might be scared away, but 80%, that's pretty good. That's almost everybody coming back.
Right. The memory of that last year, and particularly those days following the bombing when the city was entirely shut down. I mean, and that's, of course, what your book is about. What a thing to live through, and what a relief it must have been when they finally caught that second Tsarnaev brother, or found him, right?
Exactly, yeah. I think that, certainly people remember Monday, the bombing and the awful, toll and everything. But I think if you ask people what they most remember about that whole thing was particularly that Friday when we were looking for the younger suspect, Jahar Tsarnaev, and the whole city, as you say, was shut down. It was the eeriest stillness that I've ever felt anywhere, and I don't think any of us will ever forget that. And you're right, and one of the things we do capture in the book is that sort of tremendous sense of shared relief when it was all over on that Friday night. But we also, make a point of saying that it's relief, except not for the people who, lost a limb or lost a loved one or were most deeply affected. I mean, it's a bittersweet moment, of course, for them, and we really use the book to try to capture the journey that they face after that week as much as what they went through to get there.
And I know Senator Elizabeth Warren, as well as others, brought back the memory of Sean Collier, the police officer who was killed on the campus, too. One of the victims of the bombing. What's his current status of the Tsarnaev brother? Has his trial, has it even started yet?
No, so he's being held at a federal prison facility about, an hour northwest of Boston. He's being held in pretty serious isolation. His defense team has been very, trying to argue to get him some more freedom because he can't talk to his lawyers and so forth without being monitored. And he's awaiting trial. They have scheduled it for the fall. We'll see if that actually happens. This is a death penalty case, as you know, so this makes it tremendously complex and lots of different, levers. And there's a lot left to be done, I think, before the trial. So we'll see if it actually goes forth this year.
Yeah, and would that happen? The trial would happen in downtown Boston?
Well, yes and no. Probably, but it's possible his defense team would move to try to relocate the trial somewhere. It's you can think about how hard it would be to find a jury here that would be impartial.
Yeah.
So at the same time, it may benefit them because there's a lot of opposition to the death penalty in Massachusetts. So, they're going to have to kind of weigh those two things in deciding whether or not to move for a new venue.
Yeah. Well, it is a day that really we will never forget, and this is a day that we can really all celebrate. And I think, everybody I've talked to, people are talking about Boston, what's happening up in Boston, the whole eyes of the entire nation on Boston. So we don't want anything to get in the way of a great celebration up there, Scott. And it's so good of you to join us this morning to help kick it off.
Thank you so much. Yes, we're all looking forward to a great day. I have every confidence that that's what it's going to be today.
Boston strong, America strong. All right. Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
It is great. The vice president said that last week, and this whole week there's like a week of celebration going into Easter weekend, right? All in preparation for this glorious day today. Great to hear that they've got good weather up there. Not a cloud
Yeah.
in the sky.
Yeah.
So let's hope that a great, great day for all of us here on this Monday, April 21.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 25 minutes after the hour, Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports joins us in the next half hour here in studio. Well, one big surprise announcement. On Good Friday, man, I got to tell you, if you want to bury a story, you release it late in the day on Good Friday. Because who's paying attention, right?
Yeah.
Well, enough of us were paying attention that we caught word of this. The State Department announcing that it was going to delay its decision on the Keystone Pipeline. Remember, the State Department, because this does cross from Canada into the United States, the State Department has the first okay. They've been doing the environmental review. They did the EIS on the project. They put it out for public comment. The public comment period was over. Then the State Department gets to make its review and recommendation to the president before the president makes the final decision. The State Department has yet to act. It was delayed under Hillary Clinton. And now John Kerry's State Department announced on Friday that they are postponing any final decision on Keystone Pipeline because they need more time to review the public comments. They didn't say how long that postponement will last. It's a delay until who knows when, but certainly that's going to kick any decision on Keystone off until after the midterm elections. A big debate underway now about who that helps and whom it doesn't. I think neither side is really happy with the decision. I mean, at one level at least, those who support the pipeline, like John Boehner, just said, this is shameful. Just do it. You know, this is a jobs producer. Just approve it. Why a delay? And a lot of people who oppose the pipeline say, oh, this is terrible. We know this is a bad project. Why don't you just deny it now? Why wait? But on another level, I think environmentalists secretly, those who oppose the pipeline, are more happy than the other side because they're afraid that Obama might end up eventually approving it, and this puts that off and maybe increases their chances of killing the project. And people like Mary Landrieu, Mark Begich from Alaska, and some Republicans and Democrats running for re-election who support the project would like to see it approved so they could take credit for it right now. But at any rate, whether you're for Keystone or against it, you're going to have to wait until after the midterm elections to get any final decision out of the State Department.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune in to the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Using that.
Welcome, everybody. Good to see you this morning. Big sports weekend on many different fronts. And to help us through it all, Travis Waldron, our good friend from Think Progress Sports, comes into the studio this morning. Travis, always good to see you.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in and joining our team here this morning. So, the Nats proved they can beat the Cardinals after all, right?
They did. Yesterday was a great game.
Yeah, you know,
nice comeback.
Just don't ask if they can beat the Braves.
Yeah,
well, I know that's another challenge, but with the Cardinals, I
wasn't going to bring that up.
I had to after the last time you were here.
Well, they split. This home run or homes,
right
with the
and have Mike Trout and the Angels coming in tonight.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're looking pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad. I'd like to see them dominate a couple of really good teams.
Yes,
I'd like to see that happen, like the Braves or the Cardinals.
They were somewhat dominant yesterday. They just couldn't get a hit with runners in scoring position.
Right.
I think they left 17 men on base.
Is that right?
Yeah,
that's outrageous.
That's what I heard. It was
outrageous.
I know it was 11 through 6 innings.
They got a real problem with that.
Yeah, and their defense is struggling too. Other than that, they get the starting pitching together and they'll be okay.
And just the beginning of the NBA playoffs, but the Wizards.
Wizards are
strong opening last night.
Everyone seems
in Chicago, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
And if you read the previews, everyone seemed to think the Bulls were going to win this series fairly easily, and I don't understand it. Like, the Wizards are a good team. I think, other than Joakim Noah, what position do the Bulls have a market advantage over the Wizards? The Wizards are better in the backcourt.
Yep.
And even with Noah, who's having the best season of his career probably, Marcin Gortat is still a very good player.
Yep.
And I think this was a good Wizards team. They're not going to win the NBA title or anything, but I wouldn't be shocked if they come out of this series.
I think they beat the Bulls. And I think that on the NBA...
I want to point out that we have a huge, wonderful, loyal audience in Chicago, so we have to be careful.
Listen, I think the Bulls are great.
WCPT, we love you very much. However, this is a little personal. Okay, we hope that we can be friends after this series.
Now, did they play, 2 games in Chicago and then they come back here? Is that...
Yeah, I'll be there Friday night. So, first time I've ever been to a playoff game.
Really?
I'm really excited.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's the first time we've had playoff basketball here since I moved here.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. I think the Wizards are, I think if you're looking at the long game, I think they're on the right track.
Yeah.
Even if they don't get out of this series, looking toward next year and a few years beyond, they're doing the right things.
They have all the right things in place, right? Like last night, everything was hitting on all cylinders. That's how it should look. So I hope they keep it up, man. Be exciting.
Okay. All right, now the big sports story of the day that I'm most interested in is this front page story of the New York Times yesterday. I couldn't believe this when I read it. That because so many people, I'm one of them, have abandoned the game of golf for various reasons in the last couple of years. They are afraid they're going to lose even more people. And so even the PGA now is behind this effort to loosen up the rules and make golf easier in several ways. You get a mulligan on every hole, on every round, or every hole, right? You can tee up every shot, not just on the tee. You can throw, if you get in a sand bunker, you can pick up the ball and throw it out of the hole. And then free beer, giving away free beer.
Hey, I'm pro that.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. Okay.
And then the last thing is making the hole 3 times bigger than it is today, from 4.5 inches diameter to 15 inches diameter. You could put a soccer ball in a hole that big. I mean, this is crazy, isn't it?
Well, I think I mean, I've been playing golf since I was 7.
Okay.
So, I'm a stickler.
Do you find many people your age play golf?
There's about 6 or 7 of us here that play fairly regularly, like in my little group.
Yeah.
We never have trouble putting 4 together. But I think it's an interesting question, what do you have to do to get more people to golf? And I'm not sure that
dumbing it down is the way to go. I think, I would say that not everything has to be the exact same, as the way the pros play it. We don't play exactly the same as the pros play it. I admit I've taken 1 or 2 mulligans in my career.
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with that.
1 or 2.
I think
a hole. I mean,
I think the way I learned to play golf, I think is a good way to get people to it, because I think one of the things that turns people off is the time it takes to play.
Yes.
And that it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, I learned to play on like a par 3 course, like a small executive course where the holes are 120, 130 yards long. It's a much simpler game at that point. And I think if you bring more people to that type of golf and then develop to where they can play full rounds, I think is smarter. There aren't very many of those courses though around. Everything, and especially if you look around here, I was at Langston over in Northeast two weekends ago. It took us 4 hours to play 9 holes. And you're not going to get people on the golf course.
9 holes?
Yeah. There were 3 groups on almost every hole. It took forever.
Yeah.
And if you're taking that long, you're not going to get people to the game. Yeah. And it is very expensive. And
that's the other thing.
And it also has a reputation as being an elitist, kind of closed off sport. And if you kind of have to break down those barriers. And if I had the answers to how to do that, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be making a lot of money for the USGA or somebody like that. But I'm not sure dumbing the game down and making it so kind of gimmicky. The one idea in this story of kicking soccer balls.
Oh yeah, that's the other one.
instead of hitting a golf ball.
Yeah, and then counting your kicks.
That's soccer on a golf course. That's not what is that?
Call it something else, right? Kickball or whatever. Yeah.
I think that there's a good initiative. I think that Jack Nicklaus is behind. It's called Tee It Forward, where you play one. Instead, a lot of people want to play like the appropriate tee, and they're saying, well, find that tee and play one tee forward. So if you were going to play like the regular men's tees, play like the intermediate men's tees, and that'll hopefully speed it up, make the game a little bit easier for everyone. I don't know if it's silver bullet or anything, but it is a problem. I think 5 million people leaving in the last decade is no sport wants to see that.
No, and they project another 5 million in the next few years.
Right.
And that means not enough replacements, right? Coming in, right?
But I think it is a good game for kids to learn. And it's something that you have to. It takes a lot of mental capacity to get around the golf course, and you learn the rules and kind of, we were taught the honor system in golf where you don't really have referees or anybody overseeing you. You have to kind of take responsibility for what you're doing. And
yeah,
that's part of it.
And
you
it's
have
a
your
great
own scorecard. And
when I was a kid, my grandma would drop me off at the golf course and just say, call me when you're done. And, it was 5 or 6 hours of something to do. And, I think it's great for kids especially to learn. You just have to figure out a way to get them there.
That's the thing. I think I had the same experience. I played a lot when I was a kid, and my dad encouraged me to play a lot, and so he would drop me off and say, go play. But then as I got a little bit older, a little more independent, then I had the real problem of how do I afford...
If you played so much as a kid, why aren't you a better golfer?
Oh, that hurts. That hurts. But then it becomes a real idea of accessibility. When you become a teenager and a little more independent, you can't come up with the $40-$50 to go play on a golf course. It's tough. It's tough to do that every week.
When I was growing up, Louisville has like 9 courses that are owned by the city.
Did you say that again?
Louisville?
Oh, thank you.
Bill prides himself.
Yes.
I think I'm going to say that
love
correctly.
hearing that.
Louisville.
They had a parks program. The park system owned the courses, and you could buy like a summer pass
there you
for
go.
like $90, and then you just paid I think it was like $2 every time you wanted to go
great.
play, and that made it easy.
Yeah.
But again, it's in a lot of places you don't have that access. I mean, around here, where are you going to go play?
No. Well, I mean, one thing. Washington, D.C. has at least 3 really good public courses, I think. I mean, Haynes Point,
right,
and there are 3 courses there, and Rock Creek, and you mentioned Langston, right. And then Montgomery County has some great public courses, and so does Fairfax County in Virginia.
Right.
There are public courses here. But still, to me, it's 2 things. And the reason I got away from it, I was writing a book. I mean, it just happened. I just didn't have the time.
Right.
But it's a chunk of 4 hours, not counting getting there and back. At least 4 hours more on the weekend.
Of course.
Because the course is more crowded and people just play slower, right?
Right.
And the cost. I mean, it's prohibitive on some, unless you're...
It definitely
again,
is.
some of your county courses and municipal courses, but
even then, when you go to the cost of equipment and balls and everything else, it's not a cheap game to play. And if you figure out how to make it a little cheaper and a little easier for people to play, I think that's a lot better to me than just overhauling
so it's not
the game
about having
itself.
holes the size of manhole covers?
No, because I mean, how many people actually play golf 100% for the score?
Right.
That's not why you
Nobody
go out there.
I play with
Right.
does.
I mean,
No. Right.
you're going out there to spend 4 hours outside and
With
have
your
a
friends.
good time and drink a few beers maybe. And, it's, I don't know that.
Here's another thing I forgot to mention, okay? The changes to gear and equipment. There's this ball called the Polara. It's a non-conforming golf ball engineered to neither slice nor hook. Well, what's the point?
Remote controlled balls, right? You get it up in the air and you control where it goes. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know. I've read that part too, and I would like to hit that golf ball and see if it actually works.
I tell you what, if I could hit one that straight, that would be a real test.
Yeah. I've seen some people out there. I'm pretty sure they can slice a slice-proof golf ball.
But you know what this would be like? This would be like taking Major League Baseball and saying, you can stand up to the plate, at the plate, as long as it takes.
Until you're satisfied with your outcome?
Until you get a hit.
Yeah.
Until you hit the ball, right? Yeah. So,
and they make the analogy in there that it's little league players don't play the same game as major leaguers, and but it's like to scale they do.
Right.
They use different equipment, and the field's a little bit smaller, but the rules and everything are basically, the game itself is basically the same.
All right. Well, we agree. Then don't dumb down the game of golf. And by the way, there is an alternative for people who want dumb golf, miniature golf.
There you go.
There you go.
Windmills and everything.
I know, it already exists. All right. Covering the sports field with Travis Waldron. Your comments, golfers out there, this is a time to unite for some serious golf, right? None of this throwing the ball out of the bunker. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, 11 minutes before the top of the hour. Evan McMorris-Santoro from Buzzfeed here is a friend of Bill in the next hour. Another friend of Bill, Travis Waldron, here in studio with us from Think Progress Sports. It's thinkprogress.org. Peter?
Remember, we're on Twitter at BP Show.
We've been talking about loosening up the rules on a game of golf with Travis and I. Veteran golfers both say.
You can find us on Twitter at BP
news.
Show, at BP Show. Paula weighs in, says, golf courses also take away too much wooded area and water for the course, and it's bad for the environment.
Oh, I disagree with that. I mean, the truth of it is, in a lot of areas, there would not be open space if there weren't for golf courses.
Good point.
I find one of the things I enjoy about golf is seeing some beautiful open space areas and bird life.
Yeah. Without big high rises.
I think they've gotten better in recent years. I think that used to. I think it was a big problem, and I think it still is in some places. Like if you go out in Arizona and they're using, like millions of gallons of water to produce like these oases.
And Palm Springs. No, there are places that really do they. But there are a lot of.
And they should all be conscious of that too. It's
And in terms of, they don't use the pesticides the way they used to.
We were talking about Langston. They wanted to develop that a while back, and that's one of the nice big expanses of I can get outdoors and feel a little bit away from the city. You can still see RFK in the distance, which is but I like it over there. It's nice. You're right on the river. It's Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean the same thing with Haynes Point. Right. That would all be if condos if it weren't for a municipal golf course. Tom is calling from up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Hello, Tom.
Good morning, guys.
Yeah.
Great topic. I'm a budding golf player. I'm early 50s. And
you're just getting started?
Well, I used to carry bags for my brothers and my father.
Yeah.
When I was 8 years old, up in Wakefield, and I appreciate the game so much, having had played a little bit. I want to get back into it. I think cost is a big issue, and accessibility. There are a whole bunch of golf courses on the Cape that are kind of tucked away. The par 3 courses, I think, would be fantastic for a guy like me. But if I could get in for $15 on an odd hour, and that's where they're going to win us over.
I think that's a good point. There are off times, right, and just have a non-peak rate. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of courses do that, but even then, then you get into the times where, if you're not doing it until 3 in the afternoon on a Saturday and you reduce prices, it's like, but by then, you're talking, it's 8 or 9 o'clock by the time you get home.
Twilight hours.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, they're good for Tom. There's a guy in his 50s who's just getting back into the game. But, that accessibility, too. There's just a lot of courses. I mean, I'm sure in New England there's some really fine courses, but you got to be a millionaire. I mean, and to join some of these courses.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about, and Peter, you and I have talked a little bit about it, this Jameis Winston rape case down in Florida. It's pretty disgusting what happened down there. Bring us up to quickly on the.
Yeah, the New York
facts.
Times delved into it and sort of brought up a lot of issues that we hadn't talked about in a while. What went wrong there, and
what didn't?
Yeah.
I mean, there was no serious investigation.
There was no serious
charges,
investigation. Right? It doesn't seem like, and if you the Times story,
and you've written about it too.
Yes,
in progress.
I wrote off the Times story, yes, but the Times story sort of, as I wrote, it kind of echoes all the things that the accuser's attorney said after they decided not to charge Winston with sexual assault. That this was more of an investigation into the victim.
Right.
Than it was into the suspect. And the fact that they took, the investigating officer took months to identify him, even though they should have been fairly easy from the details that were given. They didn't do a DNA test for months when they could have. And then closed the case without because they said she didn't want to cooperate anymore.
Is it just that this football culture is so powerful that enables something like this to happen?
I think football plays a role. It's hard to say it doesn't when you look around at how many of these cases, how many rape cases there are involving football players. You look at Steubenville High School in Ohio and Maryville High School in Missouri, and Jessica Luther, who's a really good writer, has compiled an entire list of these, and but it's also a larger problem in America. We don't handle sexual assault very well in our justice system or in our society. It's not just football. It goes well beyond that.
Yeah,
right. More to talk about, but out of time. Hey, Travis, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you. Always enjoy it.
All right, always lots of fun, and I'll come back and tell you what the president's up to one day before he takes off on his big Asian trip.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, we've had a great 2 hours so far and a very exciting third hour coming up. Want to get you ready because, we're going to lose you on Free Speech TV, unfortunately. So you can shift over to our video stream, Talker TV, TAWKR TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. 2 great guests coming up in the third hour. Evan McMorris-Santoro from Buzzfeed will be here for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. And we'll be joined by the communications director for Emily's List, Jess McIntosh, on some of the important races where women are running for particularly U.S. Senate this year. Hour number 3, stay tuned.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
President Obama, the big Easter egg roll today at the White House. That's going to keep him and the First Lady busy through most of the day. Other than that, he'll get the daily briefing, and that's it on the president's schedule. He'll be packing the rest of the time because he leaves for his week-long trip to Asia. Tomorrow, Jay Carney, one final press briefing today before that trip. 1 o'clock at the White House. So that's what we'll be up to at the White House
This
today.
is
Back
the
with Evan
Bill Press Show.
McMorris-Santoro.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend.
My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Pistons fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100 and I'm 81 years old. And I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Boston Strong today. We are all Boston Strong. Good morning, everybody. Monday, April 21, Easter Monday morning. Great to see you. I hope you enjoyed the Easter weekend. And whether you celebrated Easter yesterday or April 20, 420, those of you in Colorado celebrating 420, we trust you had a great weekend. Maybe you can remember what happened yesterday. Maybe you can't. But welcome to the program this morning as we bring you up to date on the news of the day, such as it is here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. And, of course, give you a chance to sound off and tell us what it all means to you at 866-55-PRESS. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. Coming to you live on our video stream at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. And joining us this Monday morning is a friend of Bill the entire hour, a good friend of the program and a frequent guest host, Evan McMorris-Santoro from Buzzfeed. Hey, Evan, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Good weekend? Good.
Yeah.
Good Easter?
I don't have to weigh in on which one of those I did yesterday, do I? Do I have to?
Hopefully you did both. 420 and
it's medical.
Easter.
My back. Ow. Oh, yeah. God. Oh, yeah. My back.
You joined the team here, of course, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey. Good morning.
Alicia
Happy
Cruz
Monday.
There on the phones. Happy Monday. And Monty Kensler is running the video cams this morning and doing a good job, and good to have him with us. Evan, I don't know whether you were there Friday in the Rose Garden. I was there when the president, he loves greeting sports teams and welcoming them to the White House. You know,
it is one of his favorite things to do.
He really gets into it. And this was in the Rose Garden Friday with the U.S. Navy team. The president gave the Commander-in-Chief Trophy, which is a big deal, big, huge thing.
Wow.
President said it weighs as much as he does. To this Navy team, which is a record Navy team, as the president pointed out.
In the snow, you beat Army for the 12th time in a row. They're starting to feel bad about this. Locking up the Commander-in-Chief's trophy for the 9th time in 11 years.
9 out of 11 years.
Pretty good.
No doubt about who's
That's
pretty
good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a strong lasting rivalry, right? Those Army-Navy rivalries.
Yeah. But, you know, when they win 12 years in a row, it's kind of
all my money's still on Coast Guard, so I'm waiting for that.
He was in good form Friday. He really enjoyed that, and he spent a lot of time shaking hands with people in the crowd. There was a lot of
when the weather
there, it was.
When the weather gets nicer in Washington, everybody gets happier. You notice that?
It's really true.
It may also be the fact that he got 8 million signups for Obamacare, and like a lot of the headlines are turned around on that. But it does seem to be like there's a little bit of people are a little bit more excited. We had this long, terrible winter.
Yeah.
Now it's maybe over. I guess it's probably getting at least 2 more frost advisories. Before the end.
And what'd you think of that tan suit yesterday? Huh? Man stepping out in a tan suit. Huh?
Oh well, I mean, you know, it's that time of year.
But we've never seen. We've never seen him wear anything other than a dark suit.
Well, and you know, usually he said a million times that he only has like 2 color suits, so he doesn't have to make that decision. There's some interview he did where he talks about how, you know, you can only use your brain for so many decisions in a day. So he has eliminated the clothing decision from his life. So that maybe this is a sign. This could be some sort of sign that, you know, we're entering a new phase.
What does this mean for 2016? And Hillary's chances of running.
Somebody will
into that. Well, which is a bigger impact, Chelsea's baby, or the tan suit?
Or the tan suit.
Yeah, somebody will write that column.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
All right. So Evan's here with us the entire hour. He's a friend of Bill. Jess McIntosh will be joining us from Emily's List. Looking forward to that at the half hour. And we'll get right into the news of the day. But first, he's got
this
big news.
Full court press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Oscar Mayer Wieners. They are recalling 96,000 pounds of the Oscar Mayer Classic Wieners because they may contain cheese. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service released a statement on Sunday that said that the Classic Wieners
cheese dog
accidentally had the Classic Cheese Dogs in it, so they are recalling those. So if you did buy Oscar Mayer Classic Wieners in the last week or so, take a look. They're being recalled.
In a world of accidents, accidental cheese is like one of the best accidents. Surprise cheese. What better surprise is there than cheese?
I was going to say, right. No, just enjoy it. Go with it.
I mean, when you started out reading that, I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
What's happened?
No, it could have been cat food or rat poison.
That's great.
Yeah, right.
I think that's great.
You didn't pay extra for it, and you got the cheese.
Right. I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be thrilled.
Where do the funniest people in America live? The Humor Research Lab at the University of Colorado.
Not in Washington, I'll
is
tell
a
you
real
that.
thing. Well, stay tuned. Because the Humor Research Lab at the University of Colorado took a look at which cities are the funniest out of the top 50 in America, and they took into account how many comedy clubs they have there and things like that. So the number one funniest, any guesses?
New York.
Chicago.
Chicago is number one.
Chicago.
Chicago is number one because
I'm thinking of the
second city.
Yeah, a lot of improvisational comedy and stand-up comedy there. Washington, D.C. on the list at number 4, by the way, because of all the political humor here that comes out of Washington.
Well, that's different. I mean, that's sad.
The Capitol Steps keeping it real for us. Keeping us on number 4.
That's right.
Keeps in the top 5.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Congress, they're funny, but I mean, it's not funny. It's not funny that they're funny.
It's not like funny, haha.
Right.
It's more like funny,
Craziest story of the day, the 16-year-old kid who lives in California got in a fight with his parents. He ran away from home and he jumped the fence at LAX. He then climbed into the wheel well of a plane flying to Hawaii and actually landed in Hawaii and lived to tell the tale.
Whoa.
It's a 5.5-hour flight. Here's the deal. It's a 5.5-hour flight.
And they're 35,000 feet.
38,000 feet up in the air. He had a lack of oxygen. He blacked out for most of the flight because he didn't have enough oxygen.
Oh, man.
When he landed, he climbed out from the wheel well and just sort of wandered around in a daze until someone caught up to him. The police said the kid is lucky to be alive. They were sure that something horrible had happened, but they took him to the hospital. They ran some tests, and he's totally fine, completely unfazed.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is something. Those new Delta seats, am I right? But top 4 jokes, top 4 funniest cities.
That's why we're top 4.
They have now 5 classes. They have business. They have first. They have business. They have premium economy, and then economy, and then wheel well.
Yes. That's it. Now that's the thing.
You get to board first in the wheel well if you have the credit card.
Yeah.
You can choose your own wheel well.
Now
first.
that airlines know that you can survive,
watch.
What's to stop them? Now that they know that it can be done, what's to stop them from doing it?
You don't even need a seatbelt.
What happens? So how are they going to punish this kid? So you have to go back the same way you came?
Well, yeah, I imagine they're going to buy a ticket this time.
That's pretty amazing,
right? I just love that he blacked out for the whole flight. He didn't have enough oxygen. They just
unbelievable that he survived.
That's wild.
14 minutes after the hour. So, Evan, Good Friday, we all know everybody shuts down. Nothing happens on a Good Friday. And then, whoa, the State Department surprised us Friday by coming out with, hey, you know that Keystone Pipeline decision you guys have all been waiting for? It's going to take us a little longer than we thought. And now, on top of that, the State Department has come out and said, politics had nothing to do with this delay.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would insinuate anything else.
What's going on here?
Well, this is one of these interesting things about this election year is that we're waiting to see what happens with this Keystone XL pipeline. It's this issue where it pits Obama versus an angry part of his base, Democrats versus part of their base, and they're trying in a turnout election year. They're trying to be very careful not to. Take off their base in a lot of ways. And this Keystone Pipeline thing has been going on for a long, long, long time. And what happened a couple months ago was a state court in Nebraska ruled that they couldn't run the pipeline through the state as they had planned without having they had to have some more hearings about it and figure out what's going on with it. And that became the jump-off point for the State Department, which has to rule on this thing because it comes from Canada through the United States, to once again delay the decision, this time indefinitely. So it, in all likelihood, will not be until after the 2014 elections. There are people who say that the Supreme Court ruling in the state Supreme Court will not be finished until 2015. And after that, if the pipeline route changes dramatically, we'll have another review period. We could see this thing go after, just go another year or two. Who knows? It goes on and on and on.
Now, I know there are a lot of complaints, but from a political point of view, putting all cynicism aside,
I'll do my best.
Isn't it probably best for both sides to put this thing off?
Well, I mean, we saw a lot of Democrats, well, not a lot of Democrats, but Democrats who were in tough elections like Mark Begich and Mary Landrieu, sort of be as angry about this as a lot of the Republican critics were. I mean, there's an issue where
they'd be more angry if the State Department were to approve it, right?
No, why? I mean, they want it, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry, were to deny it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So in effect, no news to them is not as good as they want, but it's certainly better than denial.
Well, except for the fact that the people who are really coming out and taking, feeling great about this delay were the people who don't want the pipeline built. They feel like every time this gets pushed.
But even for them, this is better than the president approving the pipeline.
Well, that's right. I mean, that's right.
That's what. So I think in the end, I think both of them have to accept the fact that they may not have gotten what they want, but.
So you're saying
they didn't get
that
the other
sort of
side.
Limbo status quo is good for everybody.
I think
that's
so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's not what they say, right? I mean the two sides.
I know.
The sides.
Right.
The most interesting part about this too is that this has resided in the State Department, and this is one of those things where you can't get the White House to talk about it at all because they say this is a State Department matter, State Department matter, State Department matter. But nobody at this point involved on either side really gives the State Department much credit in this. They people sort of think. I mean, a lot of the headlines that came out of this where Obama delays pipeline, Obama pushes this back, and the White House says this is a State Department decision.
And
as I said, like as I wrote about, they on the big conference call with reporters on Friday, we're all trying to get out the door, and they had to have one of these news dump conference calls, and on the call they were very adamant that politics had nothing to do with it. I mean, a lot of the review process is going forward, just not the part related to this pipeline route.
I don't believe for a second. I think the White House clearly said, "Look, put this thing off. Just put this on the bench, right? Put it on the back shelf or whatever." But if I'm Mary Landrieu, and I'm a big supporter of Mary Landrieu. I think she's done a great job and totally support her for re-election. Good for the people of Louisiana. She can, if the State Department had approved the pipeline, this would have been a big body blow to her. Now she's not happy with this decision, but I think
denied it. If they'd approved it, she'd probably be happy.
I keep saying that.
Yeah.
I meant if they had denied it, then that would have been a big body blow to her. Now they haven't denied it yet, but she can still say, "Look, I put so much pressure on them; they haven't approved this thing yet."
Right.
She's still. I think it's better for her.
Well, there's a much larger question about this because this is one of those things where the polls show that most Americans want it built. Obviously, industry wants it built. These sort of senators from these oil-producing states want to see it built. It really is an interesting moment of sort of this vocal environmental movement that has really kept the pressure on Obama. I mean, really kept it on him. It's been going on and on and on. I've been covering it for a long time. These guys have really done a good job in keeping this in the limelight. And I think that one of the reasons that you're seeing it take so long and it's still so politically delicate for Obama is the pressure that these protesters are putting on it. Yeah, and if you couple that, if you compare that to other causes that we've seen sort of come and go, I remember back during the whole debate about gun control after the Newtown thing, you didn't see anything near the pressure from gun control folks that you saw with Keystone. So it's really fascinating about how these guys were definitely swimming upstream in terms of against public opinion as far as it is, and against a lot of very powerful people, including the oil industry, have been able to really keep this thing as a really, really hot potato that Obama does not want to touch. He seems very clear he wants to stay as far away from this as he possibly can. You and I were there. The president came into the briefing room last week to talk about Ukraine, but also to crow about the latest numbers on Obamacare. She mentioned 8 million people now having signed on the exchanges, plus 3 million on Medicaid, 3 million young people on their parents' plan. Does this change the equation, change the dynamic, change the politics around Obamacare? Well, I wrote a story before the 7 million number came out. I spoke to a bunch of sort of nonpartisan observers, and they had watched so much of this politics go on for so long that they felt that no matter what happened, the politics are pretty much locked in for 2014. And I think that was a good story. I think that there are a lot of good experts in that. But you have to admit that when you look at the momentum that's occurred, I mean, to not only meet this goal that was a very far-fetched idea a week before 7 million came out, but to exceed it by that much, there's been a lot of good commentary on the left lately about how the Republicans are having to sort of scramble around with all these numbers coming out. But again, there's not a Republican strategist in the world. I mean, I've talked to them a lot, and there's not a single one of them who'll tell you that Obamacare is over as an issue for them, right? They still feel really confident they can win this election just on Obamacare.
Yeah.
But the Democrats now have something to crow
Mitt
about.
Romney was confident he was going to win an election, too.
Fair enough.
I mean, the fact that they say that they feel good about it doesn't mean it's true.
Right. Well, and the polls, I mean, there's been some movement in polls, but I mean, the fact is there's a highly polarized discussion about it. I mean, it's going to take a long time, which was the argument that these guys made in the story that I wrote before the 7 million number came out. It's going to take a long time to determine whether or not this law has really worked. I think the White House is starting to prove that people want it, which was a main Republican argument that nobody wanted this. Well, they're starting to prove that actually it looks like people really were interested in it.
Yeah.
Which is a big change for them. I mean, look, they could have gone into this whole electoral cycle having sort of stumbled out of the gate as they did with enrollments, not many of these targets, which is what they were gearing us up for. I mean, you and I know that they talked endlessly about how they were not going to make it.
Yeah, lowering our expectations, and they exceeded them. Evan McMorris-Santoro here. Just starting the discussion for this hour. Join us at any time at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? commit to change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, we'll take a look at some of the big Senate races in the next half hour with Jess McIntosh from Emily's List right now. Talking particularly White House politics and White House events with Evan McMorris-Santoro from Buzzfeed. So, Evan, the president tomorrow goes off first to Osa, Washington to take a look at the serious landslide damage. And then on to this historic Asian trip.
Yeah,
postponed from last October. Where's he going and why?
He's going to all the big names. He's going to Japan, right? Going to Korea, going to Malaysia,
Philippines.
Am I missing one?
Yeah,
he's going to China
before.
again? But this is a big trip, and it comes at a time when the U.S. is really trying to shore up its allies and get people on its side with all the sort of Ukraine stuff and the Russia stuff. So it should be a pretty interesting trip, actually. It's one that I, sort of around the White House was not thought of as going to be very newsy until the past couple weeks. And then, I spoke to a reporter recently who was like, this is going to be a big trip, and we should keep their eye on it. So I think it'll be an interesting.
Is this one of the grizzled reporters you spoke to?
No, I only have one. I only have one grizzled source.
Well, Susan Rice, who came into the briefing room on Friday, stressed the importance of this trip. I think it's also very significant. The president's going all the way over there and going all around, but not going to China.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of a message to China, right? We're here and we don't need you. Yeah. Back with Jess McIntosh.
Is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour, Monday, April 21. Here we go, The Bill Press Show. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, nationwide and worldwide on our video stream at Talker TV, TAWKR TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Evan McMorris-Santoro here as a friend of Bill from Buzzfeed for the entire hour, and we are very excited to be joined now by Jess McIntosh. You've seen her many times on the program, Communications Director for the great Emily's List. Hi, Jess. Nice to see you.
Also a friend of Bill, right?
And also a friend of Bill. Absolutely. Here in both capacities. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
There are so many important races that Emily's List is involved in this year, Evan, we want to talk about. Particularly for the U.S. Senate.
Yes.
Let me just start with a question. Overall, the narrative seems to be that Democrats don't have a chance of holding on to the Senate, that it's gone.
Yeah, I think that's...
Where's that coming from?
Well, I think Democrats are inherently pessimistic. we're used to not doing great in the midterms. We try to set our expectations low. I think if you look at the map, this is a really, really tough map for Democrats. There's just no way around that. We're in 2012 we got to fight on turf like Wisconsin and Massachusetts, and this year we're fighting on turf like Kentucky and Georgia. So being realistic and looking at the map,
you got to admit it is
tough.
A tough year.
But if you go campaign by campaign, the dynamics of each individual race are not predicting certain doom for Democrats. I think it's certainly, it's going to be a tough year. I think what did Nate Silver say, 60-40, that we would lose the Senate? I think it's closer to 50-50. I think we need to make sure that we scare the heck out of every Democrat in our life and make sure that they come out and vote, because that is going to save us this year. Mm-hmm. So if somebody says, could Democrats lose the Senate? Go ahead and tell them, yes, they could. And the only way to stop it is if you and all of your friends come out and vote in November.
Yeah. Evan, I was on MSNBC Friday night with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I mean, some of this narrative is being broadcast and kind of spread, even though we haven't even had we don't even know who the Republican candidates are in a lot of these states. And
you mean we're getting ahead of ourselves? No.
Yeah. And there's some Tea Party candidates who've said some pretty outrageous things who could have been we could have another Todd Akin case. I mean, we were talking about one of the candidates, I think he's maybe Paul Brown in Georgia, right? Who said
probably.
The property taxes, he compared them to the Holocaust.
Right.
Well, this has been a lasting narrative for Democrats for the past couple of cycles. Is this sort of this idea that there's always someone that pops up that says something, What's interesting now about this cycle is people like Jess and her ilk are trying to cast the mainstream sort of establishment Republicans as saying that sort of stuff, taking that narrative out and putting it
only if they say it. Only if they say it.
Todd Akin would fit right in this year. I don't know that he would make the kind of splash in 2014 that he did in 2012, given the daily litany of Republicans saying unbelievable things about women in every issue category. We're not just talking about, birth control. We're talking about, the Intelligence Committee. They're saying, Senator Dianne Feinstein, who chairs the committee, is over-emotional. Intelligence is not usually one issue where Republicans step in it on women. Usually it's birth control. It's their weird fixation on redefining rape. It's that kind of stuff. But this is really across the board.
So let's take some of these races raised by you. I'm fascinated by New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And Scott Brown thinking that he can hoodwink the people of New Hampshire into, all right, I'm really from New Hampshire. Yeah, I may have lost, and embarrassed myself by losing to Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts.
But that was next door.
But I have reinvented myself, into a new state.
New plates on the truck, man.
As if there's... Yeah, and he's got the red
but not in
pickup
time.
truck.
The first video came out, and it was still Massachusetts.
Oh, is that right?
What, license plate?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really? Well, so,
in time for the TV ad, he switched it
Isn't
out.
the message that he's sort of sending, you don't have anybody good enough in New Hampshire to represent you, so you need to import somebody?
That is exactly the message that he's sending. And in that sense, he's kind of right. I mean, Senator Jeanne Shaheen is really popular. She's one of the most popular senators in the country. She was their governor before she was their senator. She is New Hampshire through and through. They absolutely love her. She's doing a fantastic job. It was really tough to recruit somebody to run against her. The guy they had before Scott Brown jumped in had run and lost in Florida. They were already in bring somebody in from another state.
One guy lost in Florida, the other guy lost in Massachusetts, right? All right, you have your choice of losers.
But I mean, he's gonna make her work really hard, and everybody who wants to support her should support her, because he's not the kind of candidate that's gonna not spend any money like that. It makes this race a competitive race. Do I think she wins? Yes, absolutely. But she's going to have to.
Will he have a lot of support, Evan? What do you hear from the establishment
Republicans like him. I mean, he's Scott Brown. I mean, he was the hero of 2010, one of the heroes of 2010. And actually, he's a good segue into something that you and I were talking about earlier, which is about Obamacare and the role of Obamacare in this election. Because in 2010, right, Scott Brown sort of exemplified the anti-Obamacare Republican message that they used to great success in 2010, to a lesser extent in 2012. So we've got this 8 million number now. Is Obamacare an asset for you on the campaign trail now?
Well, I think that every year we see that arguments hold diminish. In 2010, it was everything. That was the beginning of the Tea Party wave. We saw Scott Brown ride it to victory. In 2012, it fell really flat. In 2014, it seems to be falling even flatter as we get better data. I mean, the 8 million really does matter. I think as we start seeing, the law work, and there's nothing they can do about it, I don't see that being. Certainly, it's not going to be a more compelling argument in 2014 than it was in previous years.
For Republicans, you mean?
For Republicans. And we're already seeing the potency of it diminish. So I think every day is as good as it's going to get for Republicans on Obamacare. And every day it gets a little bit less for them. How much less by November? I'm not sure. But
it's still not a great day for Democrats on it, right?
It depends on where you
Jeanne
are.
Shaheen be like, I'm Jeanne Shaheen, the senator who helped you get Obamacare.
It would not surprise me at all if you saw some Democrats running on support for that law.
By the way, I think the Democrats are smart. They would. They have, I believe, a great opportunity to say this law is working. It's doing great things. Here's what it does for you. And if you get the Republicans in, you're going to lose all of this. And, they've got to turn the tables on Obamacare.
Well, the White House says that. I mean, Obama has said that pretty strongly now. And it was an interesting argument that some senior advisors made to reporters recently, where they talked about how if you look at Virginia, the governor's race, Terry McAuliffe won, that he
Right.
sort of leaned into Obama and leaned into the
Yes.
Obama coalition and won. And they're thinking that other Democrats who are trying to sort of keep their distance may find themselves, like someone like Kay Hagan, who's not exactly like as interested in doing that. They may find themselves alienating these voters that they need to turn out in 2014 in November. So, it's a strategic decision, right? Do you embrace Obamacare, which is what Republicans exactly want you to do, or do you not, which is what maybe people in the White House think might be dangerous?
I would embrace it, and then again, put the Republicans on the defensive as to what they offer in place of it, which is nothing. What you mentioned North Carolina, so let's jump to North Carolina. Kay Hagan up for re-election. North Carolina is a tough state.
This is one of the perfect examples of the 2014 Todd Akin factor, let's call it. Like the Republicans who are vying to challenge her are in a race to get farther to the right. And there used to be like three really clear factions. You had Brannon, who was the Tea Party darling. He's been endorsed by Rand Paul. You had Harris, who's a very conservative pastor. He's got Mike Huckabee. You have Tom Tillis, who's widely seen as the front runner, who's Senate Majority Leader, definitely the establishment candidate.
So and Brannon, who says his hero is Jesse Helms.
Right. Yes, exactly. So it's about as clear as it gets in terms of the factions of the Republican Party, the Tea Party, the religious conservatives, and the establishment GOP. But they've all blended together now at this point. Like, they're all spending so much time making sure that there is no distance between them, that Tillis is just as reactionary. He was supposed to be the establishment guy. There's a file on him a mile long that looks no different from the Tea Party guy.
When's the primary?
May 6th is the primary, but then there's probably going to be a runoff, which gives them even more time to try to outright each other. And nothing... I mean, Obama's not terribly popular in North Carolina. Something that's even less popular is the North Carolina legislature, which Tillis runs. So he is stuck to all of these like awful reactionary policies that he's been championing. So even if the supposed frontrunner safe establishment guy comes out, I still think you're running against somebody who's saddled with a really unpalatable agenda.
The runoff could be tough for them too, because that you're even smaller electorate, probably even smaller and more conservative. So that's sort of I imagine that's something the establishment GOP would like to avoid.
Georgia's in the same situation with a
All
runoff.
right, yeah. I was going to ask you about Georgia. Michelle Nunn is the Democratic nominee for sure. I mean, right?
She's not challenged in her primary.
Okay, yeah.
We're not quite there, but she'll
and
be
now and then you also have two members of Congress who are vying for
three members of Congress and Karen Handel, who is Secretary of State. Karen Handel, your listeners might remember from the Susan Komen Planned Parenthood fight.
Right.
She was one to resign after she made the brilliant strategic decision.
So this could be a pickup for Democrats. Right?
It could be. It's probably our best pickup opportunity, either that or Kentucky.
We'll get to Kentucky after the break.
Which is crazy that we're talking about Georgia and Kentucky as like our best opportunities for Democrats. But Georgia's just it's a perfect storm. We have an amazing candidate in Michelle Nunn. And Republicans are putting up people who, I mean, if you had told me 3 years ago that we were going to be running against people who said stuff like, evolution is a lie straight from the pits of hell and poor kids ought to sweep the cafeteria before they get their school lunch, they learn there's no such thing as a free lunch. I mean, these are the guys who are running to challenge Michelle Nunn for Saxby Chambliss's seat. There is no Republican like Saxby Chambliss in that mix. Like the kind of Republican that Georgians are used to voting for in running this year.
But and even, I mean, she ran the Points of Light Foundation.
That's right.
And George H.W. Bush has said great things about her. I don't think he endorsed her, but he said she's
I think we're going to hear her. I mean, from what we've seen from her early advertising, I think we're going to hear her talk more about George H.W. Bush than about being a Democrat. She did not put the word Democrat in her initial ads and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting race down.
Plus, I think even in Georgia, Sam Nunn still is revered.
Yes.
Her dad. I mean, it's a good name, and yeah.
Democrats feel good about Georgia. I mean, they're talking about Georgia all the time. They do it.
I know.
Mean, maybe it's just because this year this is what they have.
It's kind of really fun.
They're excited about it. Yeah.
All right. We've got a great team here with Evan McMorris-Santoro and Jess McIntosh. And you join the conversation. You're in one of these key states, 866-55-PRESS. So Kentucky, we'll start there. Coming back. When we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour now here on a Monday, April 21. And we welcome two friends of Bill in the studio this hour, Jess McIntosh from the great Emily's List, emilieslist.org, with Evan McMorris-Santoro from Buzzfeed at buzzfeed.com. Whoever thought we'd be talking about Kentucky as a close race for a Democrat?
Definitely not.
Mitch McConnell and Allison Lunderson Grimes. Mitch McConnell has yet to win the primary, but that's pretty clear he will.
It's pretty
right?
clear he will, but it wasn't always, which is like sort
Right.
of point number
Yeah.
one in the astonishing thing about Kentucky. I think Kentucky was just, it's one of those races where he just drew a nightmare candidate for him. Allison Lundergan Grimes is the youngest Secretary of State in the country, one of the highest vote getters in Kentucky. She's from a famous family in Kentucky. She has been raised on Kentucky politics. She's kind of Kentucky through and through, and she's making him run for it, and he hasn't had to run for it in a while.
Evan, it's interesting. Rand Paul, of course, supports Mitch McConnell, but he will not tell reporters why.
Well, the most fascinating dynamic I think of that whole state is this relationship between McConnell and the Pauls, right? Like, so back when Paul was first running for Senate, McConnell was hell bent on preventing him from getting into the Senate. He ran.
Right.
McConnell appeared in a TV commercial for Paul's opponent in the Republican primary, Trey Grayson. I mean, I actually covered that race. McConnell was, I was in a room at Fancy Farm, the big political thing, with McConnell and Rand Paul, and the two of them were not getting along at the time. And now we have this sort of very fascinating thing that after Rand Paul won, Mitch McConnell, a very sort of wily political mind, was like, okay, the wind's blowing that way, and he gets right, and he pulls the Paul people into his universe. He hires Paul's... like some married relative of Paul, Jesse Benton, a big-time guy in the Paul family, as his campaign manager. And there's been some friction there right along. We had that sort of secret recording of Jesse Benton talking about how he's holding his nose and supporting Mitch McConnell. And you've got the thing where Rand Paul sort of like, okay, I'll vote for you, I support you, but doesn't really want to embrace him. So this is exactly sort of the part of the reason why McConnell's maybe having a bit of a tougher time than people would have expected, because the Republicans in the state don't seem to like him very much. His approval rating isn't very high. That leaves room for Democrats. It's still an uphill climb. I have to say, this is a race I would not be super surprised if Mitch McConnell wins re-election. But it's a race I think has been harder than most observers thought it was going to be.
But all of those really good points that you just made had nothing to do with the candidate who's running against him. Like, he is in a little bit of a pickle all by himself. And then he draws a really tough challenger. Right. So no, I'm certainly not, betting the house on Democrats pulling this one out, but I think we can. We absolutely can.
All right, now, we've ignored so far the biggest political news, of course, of the century, which is Chelsea's pregnant. All right, so
nothing.
Does this?
Let me get my talking points out on this.
All right. I just want to. Does this make it more likely or less likely that Hillary's going to run?
Yes.
Yes, more or okay.
Well, Bill, what do you think? You've been following this for a long time, and what do you think? Let's put you on the right. You're on the Evan McMorris-Santoro show now. What do you think?
I think it's clear that she's going to run, and I think it helps her. I think it helps her. But I noticed that, like the Drudge Report, they put the headline up right away. Grandma Hillary.
Right,
now, they didn't put that up as a plus. They put that up to say she's too old to be president, right? So I think they'll try to use it against her.
That's totally in keeping with all of the coverage that Joe Biden's grandkids get about his own prospects. I mean, I think we do need to keep a little bit of an eye out for making sure that we treat this news with the same gravity that we would were it happening to a male politician. I just want to caution everybody against spending too much time on the grandma front. But she's making the decision that she's going to make, and I don't think that this is going to factor in more than what's right for the country.
So
I will say this: it is sort of
Warren.
Interesting that it was announced. I mean, it is sort of interesting that she announced it at this public forum where her mother.
Yes.
Like, I mean, Chelsea. This is sort of Chelsea Clinton has really attached herself to her parents very closely as this year has progressed. And the baby announcement was sort of part of that process as well, I guess. But,
all right,
I mean, that's all I'm going to say. I don't know.
All right. So Elizabeth Warren has a book out now.
Yes.
Not a new grandchild that I know, but a book. Does that mean more likely that she'll run?
There is zero chance that Elizabeth Warren is going to run for president if Hillary Clinton runs.
Oh, okay. If Hillary runs.
She has signed letters of support for her. She says at every turn she will. I mean, I think there's a lot of...
Do you agree?
Does she have any new babies in her family? That's the only way I can decide who's going to run president or not.
Okay. You guys are great. Thank you so much, Jess. Thanks for coming in. Evan McMorris-Santoro, always good to see you.
Awesome.
Back anytime, both of you. All right, I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, as you regular listeners know, I used to play a lot of golf, loved the game, but a couple of years ago, I was busy on a book, I gave it up and never went back. And it turns out I was a trendsetter. I didn't realize that, but over 5 million people have given up the game of golf in the last 10 years, and 5 million more are expected to give it up in the next few years. So now, as a way of convincing people not to quit golf, golf officials are proposing making it easier by changing the rules, allowing people to pay for only 6 holes, making it okay to tee up for every shot, giving takeaway shots or mulligans, giving away free beer, and even making the hole bigger and easier to hit, which I believe is a big mistake. Look, golf is a tough sport with a great history, a long tradition of very strict rules. You don't save golf by dumbing it down. That'd be like giving a baseball batter 6 strikes or more. Besides, if anybody's looking for an easy game of golf, it's already available. Miniature golf. Go with your kids. Hey, folks, have a great Monday.
This
See
is
you
the
here
Bill
again
Press
tomorrow morning.
Show.